the idea that you can get a backdoor onto these devices, but few of us have actually seen it from the perspective of the hacker and what can be accomplished. Now, I'm going to do this at reasonable pace, but just to show you what we can do, I've got my very own little network here, set up with an attacker system, and also set up with a couple of other little Internet of Things devices. Now, this device here is running an out-of-date version of Android, or as I like to put it, the most popular one in the market. It's running a 4.2x variant, so it's not running the latest and greatest stuff, because no one is. Now, that doesn't mean that the latest and greatest stuff can't be compromised in this way, but hats off, things have got a lot better. There's been a lot of investment in security features. As a security person being positive, that can't happen. Now, what I'm going to do on this device here is just open up the web browser, and I'm going to browse to a web page. Now, this website has been infected with some nasty malicious code that, because I'm running a more out-of-date version, enables me to deploy a nasty backdoor. Now, I need a willing victim. You're a good willing victim. You can handle this, can't you? Would you mind just holding on to that for me? Actually, because of wireless signal attenuation, you could just hold it like this. You could just do that.
Like this?
Yes, it improves the signal. I saw that in a 5G presentation, I think. Anyway, so what happens when we make this connection? Actually, if you want to come and sit up here, it'll be much more fun, because you're in the dark over there. Just come sit here. It's far too far away. I'm going to show you a couple of the ways that we can gain control of this device. So first things first, what we're going to do on the device here, do you know how to use an Android tablet? Okay, it's very intuitive, probably. Now, what we're going to do is just switch over here. So go to the web browser and press this. Now on our screen here, for the audience, we've got a couple of interesting connections popping up. What this means is we've managed to deploy some code to this system, and it's now connecting back to my attacker's system over here. Now we could do this from the other side of the world, so it can happen over 3G or 4G or any of those new technologies, but we're doing it over our wireless network for security purposes. So what can we do? Sarah, if you could go and find Polaris Office for me. It's in the apps on the desktop somewhere, I'm sure you'll figure it out. Just don't type anything that you wouldn't want to be exposed to an entire audience. Pro tip. Actually, generally in life. Okay, so let's have a look first at what we can access. This is a listing of the files on the SD card of this device. So we've hit a web page, and now we've got access to the documents, the downloads, the DSIM folder. That's where all the photos go. Of course, no one would ever keep any inappropriate photos on their phone. I mean, that would be silly. It's just, you haven't, have you? Okay. Now, it's not just the data that's already there. Let's try this. If you could just have a look at the camera for me. Yeah, that's wonderfully, sorry about that. So we can access both of the cameras in both directions. We can even do a live stream of the video. I'm not going to do that in here because the wireless noise is quite horrific, with all of you obviously tweeting hatred for my presentation. But it's actually pretty simple to do by modifying this command. Let's try something else. Sarah, I'm going to ask you a series of personal questions. Let's just set this up for 20 seconds. What is your favourite colour?
Green.
What is your second favourite colour?
Red.
What particular part of the 5 GHz spectrum design do you most appreciate? Okay, all right, so let's have a look and see if this works. We've captured an audio file. There we go. And fingers crossed.
Green.
What is your second favourite colour?
Red.
What particular part of the 5 GHz? Now that's wonderfully creepy, isn't it? I mean, it's awesome and terrible at the same time. These devices are much more interesting from the perspective of invading privacy than the traditional PC or Mac, because they've got inbuilt GPS, they've got inbuilt cameras. They're constantly around us. And as we make more waterproof devices, they are literally constantly around us. These devices are starting to be connected to our cars and all these other interesting things. Yet when you actually go and look at user behaviors, it's fascinating. You talk to the average user about the threat of malicious code. They're very aware of it on a standard desktop, but they don't apply those same practices to their mobile. It isn't on the consideration list. It may stagger you to know that in Sophos Labs now we have over 1.3 million pieces of malicious code for the Android platform alone. Now that's small compared to the PC, but it's big enough we need to start to think about it. Now for those of you who are more technically savvy in the audience, I'm sure you'll appreciate this is actually relatively easy to avoid. It's very simple by running the latest software, a good configuration to make sure that this doesn't happen. Yet a large percentage of the mobile user estate are still on vulnerable versions, allowing this kind of thing to happen. And I'm using open source tools here that are readily available. Quick round of applause for my willing victim. Okay, so Android attacks, interesting. What about connecting up with the Internet of Things and all the other things in our ecosystem now? It's become progressively harder and harder to come up with attacks for traditional computing platforms. Still happens on a daily basis, but it takes a great deal more work and technical expertise than it used to. Yet a lot of these devices we're now placing around us are reopening security wounds. They're reopening old flaws that I haven't seen for like 10, 11, 12 years. Now there are lots and lots of examples of this. I'm going to tell you one of my favorites. This was really good fun. I decided to do some Internet of Things hacking. And I decided to start with wireless power. One of these. Now I'm not picking on this particular vendor. Actually, we found these kinds of flaws in a lot of these devices. This device has a security model that says anything that can connect to it at the network level can control it. No username, no password, no crypto keys. This is a security model we haven't seen for more than 10 years in the traditional PC world, and any vendor using it would be lambasted in the press. But it's there. So of course, the first thing I did with it was wrote a script that found one of these devices, connected to it, and then after a random number of seconds, would make the light attached to it flicker like there was a ghost. I mean, that's the most sensible thing to do with this information, isn't it? Don't you think? So I thought, well, about 20 times per second ought to be right. Except I made a small typo and typed 200. And it turns out, if you turn some cheap lights on and off 200 times per second, they kind of explode a little bit. And if you happen to be in a hotel in Vegas where someone is cleaning your room, they may run out of the room screaming to set off the fire alarm. I did get to her before she set off the fire alarm, otherwise it would have been very expensive. Anyway, this is staggeringly bad, yet still in production and not receiving the attention of lots of traditional computers. Another type of device, the CCTV camera. I've got one here, and we've done a lot of digging into these and found an astonishing number of flaws. But with a bit of searching, we found 540,000 of these types of devices connected online. Now, when you look at the mobile applications that connect to these, again, they're guilty of lots of things we previously eliminated with a traditional computer. Let's have a look at one example of that. Okay, anyone in the audience, if I was to borrow your mobile phone and guess the password wrong 10 times, what would happen? It would lock, as would any sensible device today, except for Apple's iCloud in the middle of the celebrity breach, and, of course, I know low blow, but it was deserved, and devices like this. So what I'm going to do is run a brute force attack that hasn't been cool since I was a kid. This is connecting to the device and guessing passwords one after the other, and it lets me do it at a rate of thousands per second with no complaint. This picks up the password supersafe142, by many users' definition, a secure password, which lets me jump over, log into the camera, and take control of it, which is wonderful. Look at that. It even has an infrared mode for extra creepiness as well. It's really quite fantastically bad. These are embarrassing flaws. They're not high-tech security problems, and they're easy to fix. Now, it gets much more serious than hacking this camera as a play toy. Here is a feed from a CCTV system on the internet that we found in what I believe is Malaysia. Note the payment card terminals. It's a HD camera. You can zoom in, you can see the credit card details, you can see the PIN. It is streaming to the internet with no password or username. I mean, why would you need one of those anyway? But perhaps my favourite CCTV feed that I found, and I had to watch this for an hour, so I hope you appreciate it as much as me. It's my favourite CCTV feed for two reasons. Number one, if you look closely, you will see in the bottom left-hand corner over here that we are watching a CCTV feed of the security guard watching the CCTV feed. How meta is that? But even better, after an hour, he fell asleep. And I just look, and there he goes. He was asleep for about 17 minutes. I've cut the video because obviously it's not that interesting to watch something for 17 minutes, but if anyone would like footage of a man sleeping on a CCTV camera, watching the CCTV camera asleep, I can help you. So what's the point? Well, I guess what I want to get across to you is not to be the naysayer of all this great new technology. I love gadgets. I love the Internet of Things. I love mobile technology. These flaws are easy to fix. They require us to learn the lessons we learned in the PC world and to apply them quickly now. We are building the foundations of many of these new cool gadgets on weak foundations. Right now, the cyber criminals are hugely interested in many of these devices compared to the PC. It's because they haven't found a way to make money or use them for political purpose. Think in a week, think in a month, think in a year, as we put these technologies all the way around us in every part of our lives, we are opening up new powers for cyber criminals in the physical world from the digital. And it's easy for us to fix a lot of this if we care. I know there'll be a lot more discussion of these issues in the rest of the presentation, but I hope you enjoyed that whirlwind tour and seeing the kinds of things that cyber criminals could do. Thank you very much for listening. I shall hand back to Brian. Thanks, everyone.
Man, what is scarier than someone taking control of your camera on a phone or computer? Man, that's a tough angle. Okay, guys, so we're going to switch gears and